Hello everyone, this is Joester98. This is my speedrun of Crash Twinsanity any percent in 11 minutes and 54 seconds. This is currently the second best time on the leaderboards, but was the world record when it was set, and remained the world record for about a couple weeks. So at the start of the run here, I'm going to grab this nut. This has been a major skip since around 2018 or so, and the goal is to get this nut to the top of this cliff and place it on the boundary of the level chunks like that, and by jumping on the nut and rolling off of it into a part of the game where the nut does not have collision, the game does not like that, and so it just shoots you forward across that gap, and doing that skips the first two levels in the game completely, basically instantly. And so now we are at the end of Cavern Catastrophe. I paused the game there because the game loads things more quickly when it is paused. So this area ended up loading in about 2/3 of the time because I paused. So there's just a couple neat body slams to not only skip Totem Hokum, but skip the farm as well. And then a very old skip to skip Tikimon. By just jumping on that rock, you can skip the boss trigger and just not fight the boss. Now, if you haven't seen a run of this game in a while, you may be wondering why I didn't grab Cortex. Grabbing Cortex used to be a part of this run, but thanks to some new discoveries that I'll do my best to explain here, grabbing him is no longer required, as there is a new method to get to the final hub of the game that is both faster and does not require Cortex. Real quick, there are small times I actually jumped off of the boat and died, which allowed me to load into Hub 2 more quickly, which is why there is no music that loads you in more quickly. There's a quick cutscene skip that saves about 30 seconds. Okay, so here's the beginning of the new stuff. I'll do my best to explain this. So the first thing we're going to do is enter Ice Climb from out of bounds. The key is to not activate the metal checkpoint here, and there was no sound cue that it activated, so that's good. Then I'm going to clip in bounds, and I want to splash the water here, which is what this body slam is. Those ripples are the key to part of this trick. Now, I went just far enough into the room to lure the bat to follow me, and I'm going to use the bat to push me out of bounds and get on this tunnel, and then I'm going to lure the bat to attack me and spin him into the checkpoint, and then cross the chunk boundary to break the checkpoint while not in that chunk. And now I've just teleported all over the place. So what the heck happened there? So I will get into that when we get into the final level, because there is a lot that's going on there. But for now, I've skipped up to the top of the lab, done some pauses for loads. Here's another pause for a load, and when I die here, I'm going to spawn in Hub 4, which makes very little sense if you're just watching. It just seems like I died twice and reappeared in completely different parts of the game, which is not entirely untrue, but we are here in Hub 4, and we're going to use Cortex to get up to the warp that's at the top of the lab here. This is normally only accessible towards the end of the game, but using Cortex as a platform and body slamming onto this N and abusing some weird geometry in here, we can climb up to the top of the lab, go through this door to actually load the interior, and jump in this warp, and that will take us directly to Antagony, which is the final level of the game, which I've reached in just over 4 minutes. So back to the skip earlier. What the heck was going on there? So there are two parts to the skip. The first is breaking a checkpoint while not in the same chunk of the game that the checkpoint is in. So that was the shenanigans I was doing with the bat. I lured the bat to attack me, and then I spun him into the checkpoint, and then moved out into a different chunk of the game, and broke the checkpoint in a different chunk. Now, doing that, if I then unload the chunk that the checkpoint is in and die, I will be put in the coordinates, or the default coordinates of the nearest chunk. which in my case would happen to be the top of the lab. Now I made it the top of the lab by using a long-known trick called the Splash Teleport, which is when Crash makes the ripple splash animation in water and then dies in a body of water without splashing, he will teleport back to the last spot he splashed at. So when I first entered the room in Ice Climb, I splashed the water, and then when I slid into the water, I actually clipped through the splash plane and died without splashing. But since I was in a different chunk of the game, I was teleported to the corresponding coordinates in the chunk I was in of where I splashed, which happened to be up near the top of the lab, which is when there was that weird camera teleport and it seemed like some weird stuff was going on. And the combination of that with hitting that checkpoint while not in the chunk that the checkpoint is in by using the bat allowed me to get up to the top of the lab, and then I still maintained that state. So I climbed inside the tunnel, on top of it, and Death Abuse again, and the load wall to the 10th dimension is very nearby, and so the game just puts me in the default position in that chunk, which is the 10th dimension, and here we are. And so now we are deep into Ant Agony, and just completed the ant fight there. That fight is not mandatory, but it is faster to do it if you get good luck. And then I do some ball ricochet across the gap there instead of having to slide it and spin it. I know I glossed over a huge chunk of the game explaining what we dubbed the cursed splash, but it is quite a complicated trick and just happens in a matter of seconds. So there's only so much to explain there, and it's not even really completely fully understood, but we know it works and it's fast. So in this room I'm going to do a strat where I damage abuse off this enemy, and then allows me to jump off of his head and skip up here, and then I can use this box to get on the wall. And wall riding is a huge part of this level because it just allows you to skip numerous puzzles. And in this room in particular, there's a huge ant fight in the middle. The previous ant fight, I only needed to kill 4 ants. In this fight, I never actually counted, but I think it's more like 20. So riding the walls is substantially faster. And now what I'm trying to do here is have very good movement through this hallway to catch this color cycle. I had a drop jump there, as you saw. I just did a slide, so I just missed catching this color cycle, which is really the crucial mistake in this run, if I'm being honest. It's really the only major mistake. That is a very dangerous cycle. Because of the warp skip, using Cortex as a platform to get up to the warp, any death in this level instantly crashes the game. Which is very scary, especially when doing strats like these controllable slide jumps around these pillars. So you have to toe the line between being careful and not dying and going fast because you're trying to get as good of a time as you can. And it's a delicate balance that you have to strike in this level, but at the top level you just gotta go breakneck speed, and if you die, so be it. There's always another run. So now this final color section, there are some cycle skips I'm going to do. So first I'm jumping red to red here, which catches me up 1 cycle, and then I'm going from this yellow to this red, which catches me up another cycle, and then finally I'm going to do a slide jump from green to blue here, and then long jump to this yellow, skips another cycle. And now coming up here, this ball, what happens here is it looks like the ball didn't go in the puzzle, but it actually did. Now this is what we call ball glitch. It's essentially random. It's dependent on game lag, and how it works is if the game lags on the frame that the ball enters the receptacle, it will both enter and not enter. And then you can respawn another ball because the game also thinks that the ball did not go in the puzzle. And this area of this level in particular is weird because the ball in that hallway will work in this room. So doing that lets you skip half of that room. And then finally, one final cutscene skip here, land on a little invisible ledge. Skipping the cutscene with Spyro. You know, we all love Spyro, but watching his little cutscene cameo there is slow, so we're just jumping around it. And now we're just making our way to the final boss. I know that was very quick, and it's hard to explain everything that's going on in this run in 12 minutes, but it's just a kind of a wacky, wild run. One final pause here to load the final chunk of the game in, and then we are entering the final boss. So final boss here works in 3 phases. You'll play as each character, sort of. So the first phase is Nina. The key with Nina is to grab this first ring from as far away as possible, and then after you break these 2 force field looking things, is to grab this hook again and do a double jump like that. And the way to do that is simply to, after you jump off the grapple, is to just mash the jump button and you will get a double jump. It's pretty lenient, and doing that lets you traverse between these 3 sections very quickly. So it's a very clean phase 1. The Evil Twins robot is going to attack me here, but it's too slow, and so that is a perfect Nina section. Now we move to Cortex, and Cortex uses his little machine gun. It runs out of ammo and jams very frequently, and you can only mash at a set rate. The key here is to take out the cannon, this attack here, because this is way more dangerous. So I'm just going to focus on that, and here I'm going to actually, because I have a mask, I'm going to intentionally tank a hit, because that just allows me to fire for longer. And once that's gone, I can focus on the machine gun, and the machine gun range is very bad, and it cannot hit Cortex when he's standing here. So you can just stand here and fire away. Is another reason why getting rid of the cannon is so important. And finally we come to Mecha Bandicoot. So this is over very quickly. He shoots rockets and you just shoot him around the force field. So there's 1 hit, 2 hits. Now getting the 3rd hit here is very tricky, but I got it, and boom, that is the end of the Evil Twins. And so that is Twinsanity any percent. The current iteration, the new Cursed Splash, as we have dubbed it, was discovered only a couple months ago, just earlier this year, and the game was broken wide open by it. The current record is an 11:36 by Noah. It is an extremely good run, and the reason I wanted to do commentary over this run was twofold. One, there are no high-level commentated runs of the new route with the new skips. So it's very hard to tell what's going on if you've never seen it before and aren't in the know. And 2, I am submitting this run to ESA this summer, and I thought it would be a good idea to explain everything to them. So I hope you all enjoyed watching this and these final cutscenes here. One fun little tidbit about the Cursed Splash trick is that the game will actually crash when the credits start, so you don't even get to see the credits here, which is unfortunate because usually that's a cathartic moment at the end of a game, but the game will just freeze. But to recap, use the nut to skip the first 2 levels, then we do some body slams to skip the 3rd level. A combination of breaking a checkpoint while not in the part of the game the checkpoint is in, and dying in water without splashing the water allows us to skip directly to Hub 4, and then using Cortex as a platform allows us to skip to the end of Hub 4, and then in Ant Agony it's just balls to the wall, go fast, skip lots of puzzles, ride the walls, do some color skips, hope you get a ball glitch, and beat the Evil Twins. And so there's that run, 11:54. Timer stopped a bit late, but 11:54 is the official time. This was world record at time of completion. It is now 2nd, but still a very strong run regardless. And hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching.